environment. When I'm saying I want people to exploit the environment, I mean I want them to homestead. Now, if you wanted to homestead a glacier to use to throw your trash on, more power to you. I don't think that's a very productive use of it. Because in the market, we know this from economics, every exploited means will tend towards its most value productive arrangement. So, what that means is you're not going to have trash on the streets, because streets aren't in fact very productive if there's trash all over them. So whoever's allowing that on the street, they could make a lot more money if they didn't allow that, or if they sold it to somebody who wouldn't allow it. That's what happens naturally. And yeah, you won't have as many natural places, but guess what? Nobody wants the natural places anywhere. Anyway, unless you're like an explorer or something, you're not going into nature. Nobody goes into nature. People think they go into nature. They don't go into nature. Like if you go on a hike up a mountain, you're not going into nature. That's not nature. It would be nature if you went on a hike through the Darien Gap and got torn to shreds by like panthers and shit. That'd be nature. And to be clear, I don't hate the people who go into nature. I think that's great. I love, Shackleton, who went on that Antarctic expedition. Like, that is nature, Antarctica. What is more nature than that? Like, that is powerful to me. That is such a powerful image to me. Somebody going out into the frontiers, pushing humanity forward. The astronauts, they are going out into nature. And you know how much they need to prepare for that? It is so difficult for them to go out into that piece of nature up in the space. And guess what? That is pushing humanity forward ever more. If you like space stations, then you hate nature. Nature says no space stations for you humans. But we say fuck you, nature. That's what we say.
Based as fuck. Do you have any other topics you want to hit on? Any super chats or anything, or are we good to kind of wrap things up here? Do you reckon?
Well, I suppose do you want to talk about Zoran Mamdani's rent freeze that he just announced earlier, I believe?
Oh yes. I mean, not much more to say about that off the top of my head, other than that it's obviously completely retarded. The only consequence of this will be that you don't get new houses developed, and the houses that are currently already built will not be improved because there's no way to profit from it. So yeah, another socialist win, I suppose, in their book. I don't know. Do you have any thoughts?
It is about as bad of a housing policy as you can get. Like I said this about the UK's energy policy. It's about the worst energy policy you could possibly design. Rent freezes are about the worst housing policy you could possibly design, because there's a reason why it costs that much. Like you can't just decide, no, you're no longer allowed to charge more. Guess what? They're going to do everything in their power to not improve that. And I saw somebody like, well, it's actually against the law for them to not improve it and keep conditions manageable. Like, yeah, that's great. So you're just going to enslave all these people. Guess who's never building in New York ever again? All those guys. Like, it is so high time preference. They cannot project out into the future the fact that a rent freeze kills New York City forever. That is killing New York City. I think I saw Na, who's a listener here. I think I saw him saying that their view of civilization is as like an open air museum, where the job of you is just as a custodian. You've just got to preserve it in its current state. No development, no further development, and that is suicidal. It truly is. We die as a species the second we no longer have Magellan going out and trying to circumnavigate the globe. The second we no longer have Neil Armstrong setting foot on the moon. We die as a civilization.
I have one thing to say about that. I do think a good reason why people don't want recent development in historical areas is that recent developments are like very ugly, because there's not really an aesthetic standard of our time now. Whereas then, like, especially historical developments, especially in the West, well, to be fair, they're the East and West too, they had an aesthetic standard. Now, you can argue like it was Christian or whatever, but they did have an objective aesthetic standard. And those buildings like look nice as fuck. They're so beautiful. So it's like, I get this urge, like, I gotta protect this, because like the new building, they're gonna put like this ugly ass Bordeaux Concourse building that's gonna seek my soul. So yeah, I want to keep the prettier one, like objectively the prettier one. And yeah, it is like some sort of like trying to protect like a museum, but isn't it like kind of like justifiable considering like the new thing is like ugly?
Well, so in that sense, but I think the new things are ugly because of the same philosophy which leads people to not build. If we had a philosophy in place which made people want to build, want to push out, want to push those frontiers back, then you wouldn't have ugly buildings. This is the whole plot of the Fountainhead. is that the type of architecture you receive, well, that's based on the philosophy of the architects and what architects people are willing to pay to do that job. So it's just another reflection of this rot in philosophy that's taken over society. So if you had the correct philosophy in place, then people would want to build, people would be YIMBYs, and also they would be building beautiful structures. Structures fit to purpose, structures based on objective standards and the materials of the day, not just like a Keating where you're just building 12 Parthenons on top of each other, and that's your skyscraper. It wouldn't be like that.
I agree with that, but like, would you agree that like in the current circumstance, because like most architects are building ugly ass buildings, it makes sense why people don't want to like replace like beautiful existing buildings with like ugly ass brutalist buildings that they're building, like in the current standard?
I understand why they don't want that, but I think they're overselling the importance of the look, because fundamentally, we just need to build. Just build, 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 build. Some ugly buildings will get built, certainly, but we'll all be so fucking rich that it won't matter to us as much. It's like, that one's ugly, let's tear it down and build something better in its place. You know, let's just fucking push forward and build. That's the most important part. Less important, but still very important, is that we're building good things, beautiful things. And the market can sort that out.
Cool. Well, if that's everything, I suppose we may...
But wait.
But wait, there's more.
So this week, a certain film got released, and then it got banned in Germany. And I have to say, I watched that film. It has a little bit too much psycho behavior in it for me. However, there are key moments in that film which will be cut up for the most brilliant memes that you have ever seen on this platform. And for that, we owe a debt to Uwe Boll, the greatest filmmaker ever, obviously. And also Elon Musk, hearing about the film getting banned and not seeing any daylight in certain places, put up the entire thing on X as a video post. Based.
I suppose that unless Monhop wants to shut it down, that does perhaps segue us into the Rape Gang Inquiry Report, because it's my understanding that the film is kind of related to that sort of stuff.
Yeah, we can keep going. Like, I'm happy to keep rolling. I'm just, yeah, that's completely fine. I'll just.
But wait, Zulu, didn't you hear? It's not 250,000. It's only 249.9. You see here on my spreadsheet.
Yeah, it's. I think it's a mistake for people to be quibbling over the numbers. When
it's
we
are
like
communism, it's like it doesn't really matter at whether it's 5 million or 3 million or whatever that died in it. Like, once you're quibbling over how many millions, it's kind of immaterial at this point. Like,
and it's like we already know that they've been covering this up for decades now. They've been covering this up for decades. So of course, and also rape is already not super heavily reported. So all of that compounding, it's not an insane estimate, right? It's not insane, and there's a very clear political motive behind the people quibbling about the numbers. They have their own political motivations to try and, for whatever reasons they've got, keep enshrining rape culture. That's what it is. It's a feminist term, this time correctly applied. This is a culture of rape. The Prophet Muhammad was a rapist. He was a pedophile rapist. He raped children. So it is not enormously surprising that from this prophet, who they think is the holy prophet, you get a culture who thinks it is acceptable to do that sort of thing. I don't think that is particularly surprising. And we know all this. Like, so quibbling over, like, oh, I don't like this piece of data. Like, the way they're doing it, I think, is the real problem. If they were just trying to, like, in the background, smooth out various points, maybe that could be fine. But it's very clearly they're just trying to discredit this report by any means necessary. Like that lady who was like laughing, like I'm trying not to laugh. It's so hilarious that it seems mean. Very clearly, she was just pissed off that she got snubbed by the people writing the report, and she was pissed off about that, and that's why she was trying to counter signal it. Like, you can see the motivations of the counter signalers if you look carefully enough. It's out there.
The strange part about the counter signalers is also that's not the only data you have. All you have to do is look around. Now, if you look in the past, you have an excuse. There is no data tracking. There are no cameras. Nobody's recording themselves doing anything. And so you can spread the myth that when a bunch of medieval people with even pre-medieval psychology conquered an area, then there was peaceful coexistence, and all the women continued to walk around unmolested. But now we have all of those videos. We have Gorish, we have various live leak like websites where you can find everything that happens around the Middle East, because the bastards that are doing that are showing themselves doing it. And we have the numbers. We have the Yazidi tribe. We have the Assyrians. We have all the massacres of the past 100 and 30 years that are very well documented. The massacres of the past 30 years that are very well documented. And here's the story. There is a war zone whenever they catch a Christian, they do this. Whenever they catch somebody with a slightly different denomination from them, they do this. They film themselves do this. And then when you take them and you move them to a Western country, suddenly they're all angels. And they'd never do this. They would never do it per capita. And then you look at a country like Denmark, for example. A country like Denmark, it started tracking the origin of various perpetrators, unlike other countries in Northern Europe. And what did they find out? What's the number one place? Oh, it's Ethiopia. What's the second place? Oh, it's Somalia. The third place, it's this Arab nation. Fourth place, Morocco, Syria. These are people that perform 20, 30, 40 times the amount of crime as a local resident. And a local resident, that's actually like somebody who is perpetually impoverished degenerate. So they are comparing them to the trash in their society, and they're orders of magnitude more dangerous as people, to societies that were never anything but benevolent to them. Never anything but benevolent. You can claim, British Empire, blah, 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 did awful things, supposedly, although we can contest that. The Danes didn't do that to them, at least not in the past 50 years. And then they go to completely peaceful countries and do the same thing. The pattern is there. So then we expect, it's not, the numbers aren't right. What a joke. What a joke. And then you ask them to condemn this, and they don't condemn it. They're brazen about not condemning these actions. And you know what? Speaking of numbers, I'm a very lazy person, but I believe that I would go absolutely nuts if I heard that in New York City, somebody made a kebab out of a girl, okay? I would be protesting and demanding the examination, the DNA swabs of every similar place, okay? That's one of those is enough, I think, to go ballistic.
I suppose, did you want to jump in, Zulu?
It's like this is the truth of the matter is we've known about this. People in certain circles have known about this for quite some time. And we've known for a while that the government has been actively covering it up because they want more voters. There is a significant contingent of the population here who simply do not share our values. Not such values that, you eat quality streets at Christmas, but such values that you don't rape children. They don't share that value. And you just simply cannot have a coherent society when you don't, at the very least, acknowledge that fact. Like, it's not even allowed to be acknowledged. I'm having to put all sorts of disclaimers in my video summary I'm making, so I don't get arrested and put in jail for simply pointing at what is happening.
Yeah, I think people who were talking about the problems of multiculturalism spend too much time focusing on, relatively, in the grand scheme of things, insignificant things like we don't want to have to say happy holidays. We should be able to say Merry Christmas or whatever, and we don't really want to be able to have to care that it offends people, and that's just that's the wrong thing to focus on. That's kind of my take on it, is that far too much time spent on the wrong aspects of the problems of this philosophy, this multiculturalist belief system, and not enough spent on the stuff that actually matters. That's kind of what I wanted to add to that.
Can I talk?
No, you're not allowed to. Only joking, of course you can.
Bruh. anyways, yeah, I want to add to Casimir. So just 3-minute trance for me, please. I don't think Americans are aware. Americans don't know much about Muslims and Islam. First of all, there are not that many unless you're in Texas or something. And second of all, Muslims in the US are like relatively like human. They're not like complete savages because they mind their own business and just work. No, this is not a claim based on race. It's a claim literally based on like the philosophy someone chooses. Okay, they're like relatively normal people. They mind their business. They work and they make pretty good money. They don't really commit crimes. They're decent in the US. Like, however, that is a very selective group. Like the Muslims who manage to come to the US are a very selective group. So like Americans don't really know much about Islam and the Muslims because of that. So in Islam, which people don't know much, Islam is not like Christianity, where it's like people come up with this like gazillion interpretations, and then the New Testament is like heavily symbolic, and then Jesus is like, oh yeah, I love everyone unconditionally, blah blah blah. Yeah, I'm gonna pray you, and you're gonna heal. Islam is literally half of it is the Old Testament, and that other half is a literal constitution and the like story of like Muhammad's day-to-day like Arabic fucking pre-medieval age morals and norms. And it is pretty savage. But however, Islam is written very non-symbolically. It is a constitution. It says X happens, then you do Y. Yeah, Y happens, then do Z. So, and Islam, which is like literally how they built this whole religion, it specifically says, like the people that actually made Islam a systematic religion, hadiths are an Islamic law. So according to Quran and hadiths, like if someone like it's something new, like modern contemporary Muslim that is like 21st century Muslim makes the arguments like, oh, we shouldn't give a shit about hadiths anymore, they have to be the ones like providing the argument why we shouldn't, because this is against like everything like Islam was built upon and every single like Muslim society on earth, including like I guess most Sunnis. I don't know about Shias. In Islam, it is very clear, right? Jihad is the end goal. When I said Turkey is like a secular country, they don't give a shit much about Islam. But even when I entered to some like religion classes, like the thing they taught is like the end goal is world domination. Like that is the end goal of Islam, and that is in a very secular country. It is very clearly written that your main aim in life should be jihad as a Muslim. So what does jihad mean, right? It is world domination, but at first it is at first with words. Like you try to convince people through argumentation and debate and tolerance and love. But what if it doesn't work, right? What if it doesn't work? What does Islam say us? It says if people don't listen to our words, that's when you have to get into battle. This is literally written in hadiths. This is implied in Quran. And another second source of we have of Islam is literally Muhammad's life. It's called Sunnah, and it is accepted as a legal source. But Muhammad couldn't convince people by sword. What he did, as most people will know, he was literally a warlord. This guy was literally someone who commanded armies, invaded cities. I don't know, provoked or unprovoked, both. And he himself said and practiced, if you take over a city, you're allowed to kill the men, and you're allowed to enslave women and children as sex slaves, like little sex slaves. He's the one that like made it legal and encouraged people to own sex slaves. He's the one that literally said word by word that the woman, as long as they have a period, they should be considered as an adult. Women can get periods as young as an 8-year-old. He married a 9-year-old. Now, some people say it was like, oh, if you interpret it, they actually consummated at 13. Okay, buddy, it doesn't really make it any better. Like, you're acting like 13 is like a fucking grown-ass adult. And that's like a new interpretation, too. Like, why did like Muslims and all Islamic resources did not interpret it for like 1,000 years that they consummated us at 13, but suddenly in like fucking 1900s, this new interpretation came out. It's sus. But it is historically wrong because we have too many evidences of her like being a little kid. And this is the religion itself. Islam, it's hard to modernize Islam because of how clear and how obvious it is. Like, you cannot really have this secular, it's so hard with Muslims because it's out there. They can just read it, right? They are, I will say, like, not every Muslim is like a savage person. There are a lot of westernized Muslims out there that live based on Western values. Unfortunately, these people are not the ones in Europe. The ones in Europe are like little savages for God knows whatever reason. But most Muslims have access to Quran, and a good amount of them do read it. They do read Hadith. It is publicly available in every. This is not like Catholicism. Quran is available in every language. It is open, and it does tell people to read itself. It's not. It doesn't have a church structure like Christians do. So it is only naturally normal that if you're a Muslim, if you're a believer of it, that you think it's okay to rape children. This is a logical conclusion. ISIS is being logically consistent. They're doing jihad. They're killing people, Kufar. They're taking down Kufar. They're taking down Saints. ISIS are literally consistent with whatever they believe. And it is true, for some reason, I still haven't understood why, it is true that these people are being fueled in a lot of European countries, like the whole right-wing argument true. And it's like insane, because when I say, like, I lived in Germany for a year, and when I talk shit about Islam, I would like get literally like destroyed and ostracized, because it was like unacceptable to say anything mean about Islam. But Islam is not a race, it's a religion. People choose to be a part of it. Like, we're not discriminating based on one's like unchosen capacity. They're choosing this, but we're not even allowed to, like, you can't say shit about Christianity or even Judaism, but you can't say any shit about Islam. It's like an untouchable religion. I also want to say that Europe actually has this, which I don't know why, maybe our European fellows can enlighten us, has a policy. If you're actually a westernized individual from like Middle East or North Africa, they don't really give you a visa. But if you're literally like a savage who wants to, like, who's okay with raping children and you want to come as a refugee, they actually allow you in. But if you're someone who's like minding your own business and you want to come as a tourist for like 5 to 6 days, they immediately reject you. This is a known policy of Europe. So I had never been able to understand why they have it. It's like a common thing. But yeah, I think for Americans, it's not a big issue. But I think it's important for Europeans to read Islam and Islamic history and understand what these people are defending and what their philosophy is. Yeah, thank you for listening to my rant.
Yeah, no, it is. This is a term that I hate when the neoprags use it, but it is a form of anarcho-tyranny. Right? It is, if you're the worst dregs of the society, then come in bulk. We will fund you to come. We will give you infinity dollars, or infinity pounds in this case, to come over. We'll put you up in nice hotels. We'll make sure you're nice and comfortable whilst you're raping our children. And it is purely driven by this leftist cult, which hates the West, so they want to destroy it. And if they bring in enough of these Muslim refugees, quote-unquote refugees, then they're able to get a larger and larger voter base, right? So then they can hopefully win more elections. It is unbelievably short-sighted. And of course, the Muslims in the UK are saying exactly their plan. They're saying it openly. They're saying, no, we're going to take over. And, you know, come on, brothers, we got to vote for this party. And then when we take over, then they don't get a say anymore. They're openly stating their plan. And people aren't paying attention to it, because it's illegal to pay attention to it. And you know, this whole thing about like jihad with the different sects of Islam. There's this meme out there where it is a radical Muslim saying, believe in Islam or I'll kill you. And then it's a moderate Muslim who's saying, believe in Islam or he'll kill you. They are all perpetuating this exact same thing. And we cannot allow it. We simply cannot allow it anymore. These people, they should not be imported in the billions to come here. We don't actually need to import infinity immigrants from the worst societies on Earth. You want to know why those societies are so bad? Is because of the people who make them up, right? We need a brain drain system where we pick off the very best of the world to come here. That would be the ideal immigration system, is the brain drain system. And guess what? That's the exact system you get under capitalism, is the very best come over and operate in their most productive capacities, not this inverted brain drain, where if you're a terrible, terrible person, then you come over as a refugee, and then you get infinity gibs. That is the worst possible immigration system you can imagine. And for the neoprags out there, the solution isn't closed borders. The solution isn't the state owns everything, because guess what? If the state owns everything in the UK, then we're getting truly infinity Muslims, because Labour is in charge. The solution is capitalism, and then only the best of the best can afford to come over. And it's self-selecting in that way. That is the solution here.
There's a second part of that solution. I agree, by the way, with everything you said. I think there is another part, which is maybe more into innovative theory. Maybe there's contested theory, you can call it. But if somebody is coming from a place where 99.9% of people don't support anything resembling the NAP, don't support even the precursors to the NAP, live a life of promoting and acting out aggression. And then somebody emerges from that area by moving towards you, by trying to settle closer to you, while keeping the same ideology that they had. I believe that is an act of aggression already. And they have the burden of proof to say, oh no, I'm not like one of them. I renounce that. I'm actually an ancap. And if they say that, maybe you have to evaluate them as an individual. But the initial evaluation is not that. There is a communication in where you're coming from and who you are and which beliefs you publicly declare.
It's sort of like if I went to Japan dressed as a Yakuza member, and I was like, and I wasn't disabusing people of the